on track, and there's a lot to learn, as you said rightly. 21st century, what do I say? Not teaching, but I'll say learning is about giving not only exposure to others, but learning yourself first as an educator, to learn yourself, understand, develop yourself. And this is something I will commend my staff, and especially Hema Mohan over here, because she's one person who's continuously endeavoring to learn, and so are the other teachers of Indian Language School. So I think forums of this kind and sessions of this kind, especially on a Saturday at this time, is really a golden opportunity for everyone to learn. Thank you once again with folded hands to give this opportunity to my staff, and making us all feel confident no matter where we are in this world, learning will continue whatsoever. So Hema, as I wrote, this was the first line I wrote for her. That was rise and shine, because she's definitely a shining star. Wherever she would go, she would make people proud. And I think we all loved the last session as well, which we had. All the very best to you, Hema. My all blessings to you. Continue to deliver the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much for your very, very kind words. And thank you, Mr. Thomas. So I would like to go ahead with my session here, which is bringing IIMs into our classrooms. So when the webinar was planned and I started sharing the details of this webinar to the groups, every day I would expect a question about what does this IIM stand for in my webinar topic. But it was only today that the curiosity rose, and there were so many questions that started up with what does this IIM in my webinar topic stand for? And thank you, Mrs. Mishra, for starting up with that question. And because the question did not rise up earlier during the period, I am now too curious to know about what you had in your mind when you saw the topic for the webinar to be bringing IIMs into our classrooms. So there is one small question that is getting up on your screens, and I would like you to answer that. What was your thought about the word acronym IIM in my webinar topic? If some of you are not able to see the poll, please, you can use the chat box to answer, because if the Zoom is not updated, then you may not see the poll that I'm sharing on the screen. So what do you think? The question is, what do you think is the full form of IIM in the webinar title? Okay. Thank you very much for all your answers. I'm going to close the poll in the next 3 seconds. Okay. I'm going to share the results on your screen. I hope you all can see. 43% of you have chosen Indian Institute of Management. There is no surprise in that, because hailing from India, we all have this highest institution of management in our minds, Indian Institute of Management. But please accept my humble apologies. This was not in my mind when I framed the topic for my webinar. Other than classroom management, nowhere is this webinar related to Indian Institute of Management. Apologies for that, but do stay in the webinar. You're not going to be disappointed, because IIM stands for something else. Now, our education system has been guided by the National Education Policy 2020 for a couple of years now. If you recall the recommendations of the NEP, what do you think, ladies and gentlemen, could the two I's in the IIM stand for? Could you send your guesses in the chat box, please? What do you think Thank you very much, Mrs. Srividya, Mrs. Lakhanpal. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bhatia. Thank you. There are two I's, so you have to give me two of your thought process. Okay, Mrs. Jivrajka, Mrs. Melwani, thank you. Mrs. Chavla, okay. Okay, Mrs. Sagar. Anybody else? Okay, Mrs. Raichur, Mrs. Samira, thank you. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Kamath. Interesting is your answer, Mrs. Mishra. Thank you. Information. So, what does? Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Jha. What does my acronym IIM? It's a mnemonic that I use. What will be the full form of IIM that I want to discuss about in today's webinar? One of the I, bang on, all of you guessed my idea. It is innovation. So what I mean by IIM here is innovative instructional methodology. Innovative instructional methodology is what I want to bring into my classrooms in order to make my classrooms more interesting and more interactive for the benefit of my children. Knowing what is IIM now, what are going to be the objectives of this webinar? It's to simply answer a few queries regarding IIM. What is meant by IIM? Let's think. Why do we need IIM? And what is the pressing need that has arisen to use IIM now? Let's analyze the situation. How are we going to adopt and adapt to IIMs in our classrooms? Let's synthesize and finally, let's execute it. Beginning with our first objective, what are innovative instructional methodologies? Let's first look at the last two words, instructional methodologies. To put it in very simple terms, they are teaching techniques that you have been, you are, and you will be following in your classrooms to deliver your content. But does every instructional methodology classify as IIM? How do you quantify or qualify an instructional methodology as innovative instructional methodology? IIMs should provide effective and productive learning by adapting to the individual needs of the learners, by identifying the uniqueness in every learner. IIM should identify that every learner is capable of doing something. IIM should actively engage learners in any and every learning process. It should help learners become self-directed and become independent learners. It should support the learners in achieving aims, objectives, and eventually IIMs should transition learners to their goals. Why do we need innovative instructional methodologies? As a way to answer this question, I want you to watch a video. Sit back and watch the video because our analysis begins from this video. Give me a second. watched the video. It's time to analyze. Take a moment to think about the video that you watched, and let's proceed to answer one question at a time. What did you notice with respect to the scene, the objective, the change, the result? Remember, all these questions are interrelated, so I do not want the answers to be repetitive. Let's get on the chat box and answer the first question. What did you notice as the scene in front of you? As the scene. What is the scene? Remember, you are not going to repeat this answer for another question that is going to come up as you climb the bulb. What was the scene? Thank you very much, Mrs. Rachur. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bhatia. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Keshwani. Yes. So what was the scene? Thank you very much. The answers for the scene closes now. What was the scene? The scene was, you see a metro station. The scene was introduced to you with people climbing up the escalator and not using the staircase. And they are just moving about. You don't see any active movement on the staircase. That's the scene that was initially presented to you. Answers for the first question closed. Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Rachur. It's a place, it's a metro, right? Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the next question. What was the objective behind whatever happened at the scene? Oh, fastest finger first, Mrs. Goenka. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Gupta. That was bang on. What was the objective, Mrs. Bhatia? What was the objective? Yes, that was even bang on, Mrs. Keshwani. Thank you very much. Okay, yes, Mrs. Jha, Mrs. Samira. Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Samira. That was absolutely right. So the answers to the second question closes. What was the objective behind whatever happened in the scene? The objective was to make more people use the staircase, to make climbing the staircase fun-filled for the passengers, make more people take the staircase. Now, question answers for the second question closes. Let's see who's fastest in answering. Yes, Mrs. Gopal, that's absolutely right. What was the change that you noticed in the scene? That's absolutely right, Mrs. Goenka. Very good, Mrs. Prabhakaran. Absolutely right. Srividyam, absolutely right. Mr. Mittal. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mittal, for joining the webinar. And I'm sorry I let you down by not keeping my IIM as Indian Institute of Management. Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Divedi. Yes, Mrs. Bhatia. What was the change that was made in order to, reach the objective? Thank you very much, all of you who are enthusiastically and actively answering for me in the chat box. The change was the staircase changed into a grand piano. That led to the change in the people who are using the staircase. So the final question comes in now. What was the result? More fun? Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Mrs. Raichur, you had watched the video perfectly. You are giving me the exact statistic that was shown in the video. Yes, Mrs. Manes, the result was exceed and fun, smiling faces, Mrs. Kiran. That's absolutely right. Thank you very much for all your answers. Yes, absolutely right. My brother is here. Thank you very much, Anna, for coming in and joining. my webinar, and your answer is absolutely right, Anna. The result of that change is 66% more people are taking the staircase. Well done to all of us. We have analyzed the situation, but picture abhi baki hai. Did
Sorry,
you
Hima,
notice?
can we
Yes,
record the session, please?
ma'am, it is getting recorded, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, dear.
It's moving live on YouTube, so it's getting recorded, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, as I said, picture abhi baki hai. Are these the only things that you noticed? Was there anything else that you noticed? Anything else that you noticed? Apart from the general questions that I had asked, anything else that was noticed? Okay, Joy, and absolutely right, Mrs. Jha, you just took my words from my mouth. Age was no bar. Different age groups, man with pets, people, mother with children, an old man who had a little disability moving his limbs. Difficulties were overlooked. People did not mind about their difficulties. When it was something fun to do, when something was presented in a different way, people forgot their difficulties and made sure that they succeed in something which could have been otherwise difficult for them. Thank you very much. Now, my next question. We all noticed what changed. Did we notice what did not change? What did not change, ladies and gentlemen? The distance, absolutely right, Mr. Mittal. The distance from the lower to the higher level did not change. Fixed constraint. Anything else that did not change? The location, yes, Mrs. Mishra, absolutely right. Yes, Anna, the time did not change. Some people still use the escalator, Mrs. Prabhakaran, absolutely right. Their aim remained the same, to go from up to down or down to up. The task at hand, Mrs. Keshwani, Mrs. Samira, absolutely right. The people who are commuting the station every day, they may not have changed. These are all fixed constraints. Now, friends, let's superimpose this very scene on our classrooms. What is it that does not change day after day, year after year? I'm waiting for some answers. What is it that does not change year after year? The content, thank you very much, Mrs. Jivrajka. The content, the curriculum, the classroom, the children who enter our classrooms, I do not have any control on them. I do not have any say on them. The class hours, yes, Mrs. Prabhakaran. Yes, the syllabus, the curriculum, the content, the classroom structure, the didactic pedagogy, nothing changes. They are all fixed constraints. I do not have any say on them. The only variable, I hope you all understand the difference between a fixed constraint and a variable. The only variable that I have a hold on is my instructional methodology, my teaching technique. If I am innovative in my teaching technique, if I am innovative in my instructional strategies, no matter what the difficulty the child chooses, no matter what the difficulty the child has in the subject, the child will not feel the difficulty at all in succeeding in that subject. Never will a child be branded that this child is not made for this subject. Never will a child be branded that this child cannot do this if I can deliver it in a proper way. that is innovative instructional methodologies. But why do we need innovative instructional methodologies now? What is the pressing need that has come now? My principal, Mrs. Gupta, every time she addresses her teachers or her students, always emphasizes that the attention span of our children, not only children, for that matter, even adults, have gone down even below that of a goldfish, which is a few seconds. It is the attention of such children that as teachers, we are to hold for over 30 minutes. And that is possible only if we are going to innovate with our teaching techniques. Gone are the days when masters of one skill were preferred over jack of all trades. Today's engineer is not expected to be efficient only in designing. He or she is expected to communicate effectively. He or she is expected to collaborate with his team. He or she is expected to think critically when made to face challenges. And that is not possible if a child is going to be groomed through traditional teaching methods. It is innovative teaching methods that can create the youth as a holistic individual for the future workforce. Our educational framework is now moving towards including differently abled children, both physically and psychologically. Such learners cannot be approached by a rigid framework of teaching and learning. The child's special needs have to be identified. Individualized education plans have to be made for each of such children. And then you carry them forward with the normal world. And that is possible only if teachers adopt IIMs. In a class of 30 or 40, every child will have a preferred way of learning. It could be visual, it could be linguistic, naturalistic, kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal. It is varied. Diverse learners are in your classrooms. If your instructions are not differentiated, if your instructional methodologies are not innovative, your efforts will become counterproductive. It's IIMs that can cater to the needs of such learners. And all this talks about why there is a dire need for innovative instructional methodologies in our classrooms, more so than ever. What are the benefits of adopting IIM? I'm simply going to share the points for you to have a look at it, because I am only listing out a very few of the benefits that innovative instructional methodologies can bring into your classrooms. Once you adopt them, you will be surprised by the unlimited benefits that this methodology can bring into your classrooms. Before going into how can I adopt IIMs, let's bust a few myths and realities. Fastest finger again in the chat box. I want you to use two of your fingers, one on M, one on R, just to tell me whether the statement that I am going to present on the screen, do you think that's a myth or that's a reality. So let's move on with our first statement. M or R? Just type M or R. Thanks a lot for all your M, and I'm sure this is a myth. IIM is not all about technology. It's a myth because sometimes technology, it goes over us and it takes away the connection between the lesson and the topic to be delivered. So IIM is all about technology is a myth. Even some very simple traditional teaching methodologies can be converted into IIMs in your classrooms. So this is a myth. Okay, so let's move into our next question. IIM is teaching timeless skills. M or R? Great. And some of you are really fast. Mrs. Mokshi, sorry, I'm unable to spell your word. Absolutely right, all of you. Some of you are okay, Mokashi. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mokashi. You were the fastest finger for this question. IIM is teaching timeless skills. Yes, it is a reality. If you go through applications of various, not necessarily admission into colleges, it could be a selection process for a manager, it could be a selection process for a journalist, a selection process for a fashion designer, for an engineer, for a nurse, any selection process. There are two columns that the applicant is expected to fill these days. One is about the hard skills, and the other is about the soft skills that the person possesses. And these soft skills are timeless skills. And that is what IIMs should strive to achieve. And that is a reality. Let's move into our next, M or R? M or R? Thank you very much, Mrs. Jha. You go first there, followed by Mrs. Motiramani. Mrs. Ebere, thank you very much. Absolutely right. Okay, Mrs. Bhatia, you feel that's a reality. There might be a slight bit of truth attached to it, but this is a myth. It is not true that new generation teachers are more innovative. It's a myth because, what about this? Do you think this is a reality or a myth? Innovation does not have a shelf life or an expiry date. Okay, thank you very much. It is the reality. It is not that it's only new generation teachers can innovate. Any and every teacher can innovate in his or her classroom because innovation neither has a shelf life nor an expiry date. Let's move with the next one. IIM is teaching for the future. Okay. 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 Okay, I caught you all. I caught you all. IIM is teaching for the future. Let's rewind back, teachers. Let's rewind and travel 2 to 3 years back. Let's travel 2 years back. And let's go back to your classes when you are sitting with your children during the academic year 2019-20. Weren't you preparing your children for the future at that time? If it was a board class, weren't you preparing them for a board exam, which will help them professionally grow in their future? How many of us taught them to face the pandemic during the year 2019-20? Did we even know that such a pandemic is going to strike the world? How could we prepare the children for future if we do not know what lies in our future? The future is unpredictable. The future is uncertain. I cannot prepare my students for that. What I can do is what is on the left-hand side. I prepare them so strongly with so many timeless skills that when faced with something uncertain, something to such a level of this pandemic, my child will not falter. My child will face it because he or she is equipped with the skills to face the challenge that is coming in his or her pathway. IIM is teaching for the future is a complete myth because I do not know what lies in the future. Coming to the last, IIM is all about deep learning. Yes, thank you very much. It's all about deep learning. That's what our NEP insists on. Our exams are getting insisted on. No more superficial learning. Whatever has to be learned and taught has to go to the deeper level. It has to make an impact on the procedural memory of a child. How many of us know? We know. I shouldn't even say how many of us know. We know that even though we have not been on a bicycle for decades, when we sit on a bicycle, our body automatically balances itself to ride on the bicycle. When pushed into the water, if I had been swimming decades ago, after a decade, if I'm pushed into water, my body is not going to forget how to swim. That's procedural memory. You make the memory so strong by the procedure the body does. That's experiential learning that CBSE is insisting on. And that will be achieved by your instructional methodology if it is innovative. So let's understand the reality of IIM and then adopt it in our classrooms. Okay, too much of strong talk. Grab a snack, maybe a pack of popcorn, a Coke, a Pepsi, relax, stretch your legs. Story time. And I'm always happy with this part of my webinars because during such times, I talk about my school, I talk about my teachers, I talk about our techniques, and I'm so proud, as always, to share what we do in our school, to make our classrooms interesting, to make our teaching sessions more productive. So let's get on with our story time. I give a 60-second break because I have been verbalizing a lot. 60 seconds break, and we move into our first story. That's absolutely right, Anna. A teacher has to reach all kinds of learners in today's classrooms. Thank you very much, Mr. Mittal, for your very kind words. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. I can't wait to share the stories. So let's move on with my first story. This is by way of answering how can we adopt IIMs in our classrooms. Can a simple question transform into an IIM? Doesn't it seem very far-fetched? But at ILS, this was achieved. And this was done by the head of our social science department, Mrs. Bindu Matthew. One day, she just walked into a class, which was her first class of economics with that set of students. She walked in and the class began with a very simple question. I do not know how many economics teachers are in this webinar today. The simplest question that she posed to her children, which later transformed into an IIM, was, how many of you do not like economics? That was the question that was posed. And there were some children whose hands shot up, not even raised their hands. They shot up in air that they do not like economics. Mrs. Bindu Matthew was not offended. She just looked at them. Can you guess what she would have said? I feel so happy while saying this, right? You know what she said, teachers? She just looked at them very calmly and with a very, very pleasing smile on her face. She said, economics is a subject of common sense. The end. You could imagine the look on the faces of those children who claimed that they do not like economics. And that one question with that one answer, my teachers, definitely made the children to stay hooked on to every word, every activity, every presentation that followed in the next 40 minutes of her class. Please, you can innovate with your words. Remember it. How can I adopt IIM? Start innovating with your words. That's the kamal. That's the beauty of words. Can simple things transform into IIMs? Let me ask you a question. I want some answers in the chat box because we are all teachers, right? Yeah, that's absolutely right, Mrs. Rachur. They would have pondered, why did we raise their hands? Now, yes, somebody is trying to write on my Mrs. Reena. You are trying to annotate on my screen. Thank you very much. Whatever you want to write, you can write on my screen. I mean, in the chat box. And I can write it very neatly on the screen for you, right? So let me ask you a question, okay? If you see a teacher entering a classroom with a bunch of carrots in her hand, what will be your best bet on the subject she teaches? I hope you all heard my question. Huh? A bunch of carrots, biology, science, botany. Okay, Mrs. Jivrajka, that's very nice. Biology, science, social science. Okay, that's right. Economics, geography, art. Okay, math. It can be any subject, English. Thank you very much. I thought of somebody talking about culinary art, somebody talking about food and nutrition. Okay, interlinking subjects. Thank you very much. This was none other than the head of our Max department, Mrs. Jen. And can you imagine what was done with carrots in a higher secondary class? Conics with carrots. You know, it rhymes even, it sounds so good. Conics with carrots. Conics, one of the most complex topics in geometry, where people say that you can innovate conics with GeoGebra, which is a very hi-fi word and technological tool. Nothing. A few carrots with the axis of the carrot, with the planes along which the carrots are cut. A circle came up, a parabola came up, an ellipse came up. Everything finished with just carrots. And remember, a child can connect to your innovation if it is something that is related to him or her. Something that he or she comes about every day in his life. That makes the connection click, and that makes the connection stay in the mind, and the concept becomes very, very, very clear to the children. Make sure that you innovate with things that are around you. No need to be looking up for some hi-fi things, hi-fi laboratory instruments. As simple as a carrot, as simple as a bottle gourd, as simple as a sweet potato will help you to teach complex things. That's IIM. Can an individual's thought transform into an IIM? I'm very sure there are some social science teachers in this webinar. Let me ask you a question. The topic given to you is suppression of Jews under Nazi rule. What is the best that you could do to make that session highly interactive with your students? I do not want any of the ILS teachers to answer, please. I want the others who are in the webinar room to answer me. What is the best that you will do to make a session of Jewish oppression by Nazis more interactive in your classrooms? Any social science students? I mean, any social science teachers? Sorry. You can adopt, no, Mokashi, Mrs. Mokashi, I want to know what type of IIM or what type of innovation. Okay, you will go with a story, Mrs. Raichur, okay. A story, a quiz showing videos, showing PPTs, okay. Drama, okay. You make a play, a role play, Mrs. Sultana, yes. Dramatize, yes. PowerPoint, flip grid, thank you very much. Let me tell you what our art integration head, Mrs. Ramchandani, did with her team. Never would you have imagined that she arranged a Zoom meeting with a Holocaust survivor. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? That is the innovative idea. And let me put it very, very strongly to you. Who were there in the webinar? That session was packed. Not just 9th children who are learning about Nazis, not just 10th children who are still linked to social science. There were grade 11 and 12 students in the Zoom session who once vowed after their board exam that they will not look at social science once again. That is IIM. There were children of lower grades who were not even introduced to social science. They knew only about EVS. Those children were there in that meeting, eagerly listening to every word the survivor was talking about. That is IIM. There were teachers who were trying to attend the meeting, trying to, bring back the memories of their days of history. That is IIM. Innovate with your ideas. Can digital tools transform into IIMs? You may be using digital tools in your school. 2021-22, the pandemic hit every one of us very hard. But it was the kids, it was the juniors who got affected a lot because they were completely cut off from physical relationships with their peers, relationships with their teachers, with their nannies, with anybody whom they come across. They were hit hard. But you know what our junior school teachers did? And what they did, I'm talking about now, is not the first term of the academic year 2021-22, but the academic year 2020-21. March, the pandemic hit hard and we were forced to shut down. And by July 2020, our younger ones, our children in grades 1 and 2, they were virtually interacting during their classrooms by way of peer deck. I do not know how many of us know what is meant by peer deck even now. But my junior school students know what is peer deck. It is an interactive PowerPoint presentation. My junior children know how to answer on a live worksheet. My junior school children know how to compete virtually with their classmates on a Kahoot quiz, on a quiz platform. Virtually they were interacting. Virtually they were competing with their classmates. It became so that they started waiting for these quiz links and live worksheet links at the end of every day in front of their learning management system. Trust me, this is true. And this is solely because of the innovative instructional methodologies that my junior school teachers followed. Innovate with technology. Can your classrooms transform into IIMs? This was done. I had the privilege of watching one of my very, very, very close colleagues. She is almost 90% my clone, Mrs. Chandrasekhar. This was during the time when 10 and 12 children were called separately for their extra classes during board classes. So our third floor was literally empty, having only 4 sections of grade 10 and 2 sections for 2 or 3 sections of grade 12. She was in the classroom to teach resistance. It's a simple English word. If put into physics, resistance offered to electrons when they move through conductors. She did not carry any, system to share a simulation from FET Colorado. She did not share any PPT to show a video where electrons are moving. No. She just called the students out on the passage, made them stand uniformly in 2 columns, called a couple of children and asked them to move between them. And then she slowly reduced the distance between the 2 columns. She made them come closer and closer and closer. And she asked these children to move through. And the children knew that as the space became smaller and smaller, the movement became tougher and tougher. Resistance becomes more when the area of cross-section goes less. A very simple way of introducing the formula. Never in their life, the child is timeless memory. She or he will not forget. She did not stop with that. I had the privilege of watching what she did further. Our children generally like a lot of chaos, noise. She capitalized on that. She made them bring all the individual chairs outside, arrange properly, move. Arrange randomly, move. What happens when there is random motion of electrons through a conductor? The speed gets affected. Heat gets generated because the child gets frustrated. The concept applied, understood by using simple things inside the classroom. Innovate with and for your children. I will end with one last anecdote. Can you have unplanned teaching technique turning into IIMs? There was a time when I entered a class 8 room with some topic in my mind, because that's what you're going to guess what I had in my mind. The children were actually busy in the previous period doing something in an art class for the Diwali Diya with all, glitter foam sheets, poster papers, chart papers, that shiny paper that comes for, making, wrapping presents, whatnot. And they were all clustered. There was a little chaos in the classroom. And I love that. The moment I entered, I had a particular topic in mind. I had a particular set of lesson plan in my mind. I had a particular set of instructional methodology in my mind. But if I had to put it into the classroom at that time, for the children to tidy up, keep everything back, for them to settle down, we are always pressed on time. I just asked them to stay where they are with the things what they had in front of them. I asked them to pick a few color pencils and asked them to roll the color pencils over every kind of paper they had in front of them. The glitter foam sheet, the poster paper, the shiny paper, the chart paper. Can you guess, teachers, what was the topic that I was supposed to deal with the children that day? Absolutely right, Mrs. Samira. What I had in my mind was friction. Though I had a different set of plans in my mind, the moment I saw what is happening in the classroom, I adapted to what was happening there. I adapted to what was available in the classroom and turned it into an instructional methodology, which the children did enjoy and did understand at the end of the day. Adapt to innovate. Do not have a rigid framework when you are adopting to instructional methodologies. Having said all this, do not overdo it. रोज रोज के रोटी दाल चावल, उसके बीच में पनीर हमेशा बहुत अच्छा लगता है. Every day eating the same kind of food, if you make a small twist and give a different food, that is really welcome. But हर रोज पनीर बनाया जाए तो make sure in the process of empowering your children, in the process of transitioning them into holistic learners, do not overburden them with your innovation. Do not squeeze the lime so hard that it starts to taste bitter. My friend Mrs. Ja keeps telling me, because she knows that I'm always over enthusiastic. So please, when you are adopting your instructional methodologies, do not over squeeze the lemon that it starts to taste bitter. Do not overdo it, that your child starts to resent your innovations rather than to follow it. Two reasons that I can attribute to this doubt that comes in the minds of our teachers. Lack of resource or time, lack of confidence in oneself or the students. Let's come to the first doubt, lack of resource or time. Be it a pencil or a full stationery shop that you have, be it just one period or a full day that you have. It's not the quantity of the resource that matters. It's the quality of innovation and the quality of implementation that makes all the difference. Never underestimate yourself or your students. Believe in your capabilities. Believe in the strengths of your students. Believe in the system. Believe in the organization. You are sure to move forward along with your students. To sum it up, these are the skills, according to me, that a teacher needs to possess so that she or he can innovate effectively, not make innovation itself a monotony. Carry along with the children to move forward for their and our betterment. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'm open to questions now. If you have any questions, kindly stay back because you are going to fill up your form for the certificate. So please kindly do not leave. Let me share the link with you. In the meantime, I would like to take any questions that you have on IIMs. And I'm sure those of you who entered this session, keeping in mind that I am going to talk about some ways of bringing Indian Institute of Management into our classrooms, I once again apologize that I let you down. I did not have and the purpose, I did not talk about the full form of IIMs in my topic was to just keep that little bit of curiosity on. Thank you very much, Mrs. Garg. I will definitely let you know. Mrs. Gaur, thank you very much. And I have a small feedback form along with the okay, I'm just going to share it. Anybody would like to say anything, Mrs. Gupta? Ma'am, Mrs. Jain. Ma'am, you are on mute, ma'am.
I said, what do I say? I have no words. Such an excellent session we've had today. Unbelievable. You know, in the sense that teachers are doing so much at Indian Language School, but we tend to forget because I'm always saying, do more, do more. You brought those examples, back to this session, and then it feels, yes, we are doing a lot over here. Excellent session, I think, Hema. Nothing can stop you. I've written on the group of the leaders, just now, that no one in this world can stop you from anything. One of the best sessions, I would say, that I attended in a long time. Not that you are a staff of Indian Language School, but someone wrote in the chat box some time back that this was one session where, we were wanting more and more, and we were active all along. So very well done. Congratulations. Excellent effort. Very well done.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Jain.
Too good, Hema. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Really.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. Wonderful. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Just give me a while, teachers. I'm going to share. And please do not leave, because after attending this session and after supporting me throughout this session, I would very much like you all to carry away with you the certificate that I've made. If at all you had attended my previous session on how to create certificates on Autocrat, this certificate that you are going to receive in a while in your mailboxes is made using Autocrat, and it is a personalized certificate that is made for this session. And that is also possible using Autocrat, because we have unlimited opportunities of creating certificates using Autocrat. So kindly, I'm going to post that link in the chat box to everyone. I would like you to access it. Hold on for a while after you submit the form, and make sure when you are submitting the form, the email address is correct, because otherwise you're not going to receive it. Your spelling is correct in your first and last name. The other two questions that I've added in the form, I have left it open. If you are interested in giving me a feedback on the session, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can just fill up your names, and kindly hold on till you receive the certificate. Once you receive the certificate, then you can leave the session. Thank you very much. I have posted the link in the chat box. Mrs. Lakhanpal would like to say
Hema,
something.
there are no words. It was really very, very, very good. The examples which you have taken and the presentation was very good. Means each and every word of the PPT and whatever you have made, very nice. And the ideas were also very good. Definitely, we will also think about more of innovation in our classes now. These are the takeaways from the session that we will definitely. I know there should not be excess, that also we will keep in mind. Yeah, for few topics, we'll definitely add more of innovation. I hope all of my friends who are here, they'll be with me. We should add more of innovation, because this is the need of our. Now, NEP is telling this only. Thank you so much, Hema. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, my brother is here from India. He is the principal of Bharati Vidya Bhavan.
I know I wanted to actually say hello to him, but I thought let's do it towards the end of the session. So, sir, if you can just unmute yourself and switch on your video, I want to congratulate you as well. Congratulations, and so good to see you. Namaste.
Anna, you're on mute.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry. In fact,
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yes, extremely fine, extremely fine. So I think, ILS is doing a great job, and particularly my dear sister Hema.
I think nothing can stop her, and she will go places. Hema, this is a moment we have to celebrate, and I know why you are emotional, but nevertheless, people, those who are capable of doing so much more, nothing in this world can hold them back.
Okay.
I have written to her the same thing, that I was at some time very emotional and teary, but towards the end I held myself back and I said, no, we have to be happy to celebrate what she has done today.
Yes, 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 yes.
So we have to support her in
So
this
thanks
journey.
to you for supporting her.
Yes, we will support her in this journey, and well, what we will support her, as I said, she is already a sun and she's a star to, who's already shining. Who will help her? Who will support
Yes.
her? She will go places. She will make all of us very proud one day. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah.
Sorry, I became emotional.
No. It is a moment that I can very well, I even felt it, but now, I'm back and I'm normal. So,
Yes.